and welcome to Falcon Spotlight. My name is Shawn Peck, and I'm very proud to serve as assistant principal at Faribault High School. I'm joined today by Mr. Jonah Heinen, who's our choir director here at FHS, and we want to have him tell you a little bit more about what he does and about life at Faribault High School. Now, Jonah, one thing that I love about you is that in your choir classroom, you know, kids are learning, they're engaged, but what I think makes you very, very special is the fact that you have this ability to connect with kids and get them to move outside of their comfort zone. And that is such an important skill for them to have as they're discovering who they are and what they're all about. And you just have this great ability to kind of help them along on that journey, and we're just so appreciative of that. It is Teacher Appreciation Week after all, and I appreciate that about you. So why don't we just get started with a little bit about you, your background. How did you find yourself getting into education, and just give us a little bit of that backstory.
Yeah, well, I grew up in Sauk Rapids, Minnesota, small town just across the Mississippi from St. Cloud. I knew at a young age that I loved to talk and I loved people. And I had an amazing middle school band director, Mrs. Martinson, who had this ability to be wacky and goofy, but still was able to draw out of us this really amazing progress on our instruments. I played the saxophone all throughout high school and a little bit in college, and so she was really the catalyst for me to really fall in love with playing music, and I was in choir all throughout as well, and music was really my place, and having inspiring music teachers along the way really kicked that off for me. In regards for choir, it wasn't until I was in all-state choir my junior year of high school where I had Dr. Angie Broker, who is wrapping up her last year at St. Thomas this year, and who came and worked with concert choir here a couple of weeks ago. And that was a transformative week in all the ways possible. We made amazing music. She was spunky, energetic, and that really put me over the edge in being a full-on choral nerd, as you will. Band nerds, choral nerds, you know, both flavors. So yeah, I went to college at the University of Minnesota, and I sang in choirs with Matt Mahaffey and Kathy Romy. We did all sorts of projects and did run-out educational tours throughout the state of Minnesota. Here in this neck of the woods, we even visited Owatonna, Albert Lea. We were able to help reopen Northrop Auditorium when they were doing some massive remodeling work on that, which was an amazing experience. And I was able to make so many great professional connections throughout the Twin Cities. And I'm lucky to say I have lots of friends who I can call up and say, hey, you should come work with my choir here at FHS. So it's less than an hour away from the city, swing on down.
And when you think about that background and your love of music and these people that you mentioned that have had an impact on you, you know, now you're having that impact on other people. And if you would just talk a little bit about what that feels like to be somebody who knows the power of a teacher's influence on kind of having you take this path in life, and maybe a little bit about what that means to you to be on the other end of being the influential person helping people find their way. Yeah,
well, kids ask me all the time, Mr. Heinen, why do you have so much energy?
Yeah, what's that about?
Sometimes I'm bouncing off the walls. It's a little much at times. And sometimes it's coffee, sometimes it's caffeine. But I tell the kids all the time, your music making and when you sound good gives me a natural caffeine almost. It makes me excited, it makes me energized, it inspires me to make your sound better and to guide you on that path with me. And so first and foremost, it's the music that really drives my energy and passion, but also knowing that the role that music played in my life growing up, and to be able to guide that for these students, I know is just such an incredible tool. And there's a lot of power with that too, knowing that I'm responsible for being most of these students' only voice teacher as they start off being lifelong musicians, whether they major in college or if they just sing in a community choir. There's a lot of power with that.
Yeah, it's a huge responsibility. You can be you could make people really hate music.
Right.
You have that ability, and instead you overwhelmingly make people fall in love with it. If you wouldn't mind, talk a little bit about the role of music as far as educating the whole child. You know, obviously we're about learning here, and we want to make sure that people are learning in a lot of different areas, but talk specifically about why you feel that music plays such an important role when we try to educate a child.
Right, so I would consider myself a teacher of people first, and I consider music my vehicle to teach better people. So in an ensemble music setting, we're working together as a team. You're contributing your individual voice to an entire sound, but you can't let that be too weak or too strong, otherwise that gets the group sidetracked from the whole product. So it's a constant, not a constant struggle, but you're constantly working on checking yourself in your part, working with your section, and then also with that section to create an entire product. I always tell students, imagine if today's Congress would sing in a choir, right? Not only,
what an idea.
I think that would solve a lot of problems, personally. But for real, when you sing in a choir, when you participate in ensemble music, yes, you contribute your individual stuff, but you're not overtaking that group. There's always give and take with that.
Right, yeah, and it makes me think about the fact that we say, you know, we use the phrase, "we are Faribault" a lot. And at least for me, what that phrase means is, you know, people enter into this space each day, and they're coming from different backgrounds, and they come with different skills and maybe even different cultures or languages or religions. And yet when you come here, we're together, we're a team, or sometimes we even use the phrase that we're a family, a school family. And that really reminds me of the dynamic that you have in the choir, right? Like you take all of these different people that might have different skills, and yet you're able to produce this unified, beautiful sound that you're always able to produce. Tough question here. How do you do that?
Yeah, so there's a woman by the name of Helen Kemp who has this very well-known saying. It's body, mind, spirit, and voice. It takes a whole person to sing and rejoice. So I cannot do my job of creating music with these people unless if I'm meeting all of those needs, right? We're getting our bodies ready, obviously your voice, but it also is the spirit as well. And if you're not feeling good about something, you're not going to be giving that positive influence that the group needs, right? And I think choir specifically and singing together as a group is such a special thing because it doesn't matter your economic background, does not matter your religion, creed, race, skin color. You have an opportunity to share a song together that often has some sort of common message behind it. We sung a piece for our Big Night Music Festival. It takes a village, African proverb. Right. And it truly does take every single voice, every single spirit, every positive influence to make it a good musical product. And to have kids leaving kids leaving the room better about themselves than when they came in the room.
Yeah, that confidence that they're able to build by saying, holy cow, I just did that.
Yeah, totally.
And that spirit that you're describing in this experience, one very cool thing that happened recently is you took the show to Los Angeles.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about what that was like, both as a leader and then just to see your students in that other context, and maybe share a story or two about what's really going to be a lasting memory for you.
Yeah, we had a great trip out to LA. It was warm. We flew, so it was not nearly as long as our trip to New York 2 years ago, and we were not battling an outrageous nor'easter snowstorm that made us return early the last time. It's amazing to see students open up when they're with a group of true friends and when they're not around certain peers or influences. I saw kids really truly open up and become really goofy, and I saw a different side of them that I don't usually see at school, which was a great thing to see. Highlight for me was working at University of Southern California with one of their faculty members and being able to do a clinic with her. She was really inspiring and had some great words to say to the students. And our time at Disneyland was really fun. We had 2 full days at Disney. We did a backstage tour and got to do a soundtrack recording session with Disney. So we had some students do some voiceovers and some impersonations, and we had some singers do some solo lines too.
I have little kids at home, and Moana is a big deal for them, and I think some of your students actually did the voices for some of the songs from that soundtrack, and it sounded amazing.
Yeah, so our clinician walked us through the same process that the professionals do when they're recording, and they're piecing together all of the layers that go into. For us, we were only working on a 3-minute clip or so in Moana, but it's that same process throughout the whole entire piecing a movie together, and that was a very cool thing for our students. Seeing a different side of music that isn't just standing straight and giving a product on stage. It was a completely different side of things.
Yeah, that's cool. Neat. And that kind of stuff, those are the experiences that I'm very proud of. I get to see so much cool stuff every day. In your classroom and all the other classrooms and in Los Angeles and on the athletic fields. And sometimes I feel very spoiled because I get to see all this and experience it. A lot of the people watching might not be able to have the same context that we have. What are some things that you want people in our community to know, maybe the parents of your students, or maybe people who don't have kids attending these schools? What do you want them to know about you, your class, and maybe just about our school in general?
I think so often parents think of, from their experience at school, to be rather rigid, and you're sitting at a desk and you're taking notes, or maybe some parents who had been ensemble music would sit and look down at music and look up, and it's a little bit of regurgitation at some point, giving, receiving, all that jazz. When you walk into my classroom, where we're moving and shaking right away, I'm getting students energized to be singing. I'm having them thinking about vocal production in a different way that isn't all theory, jargon-y. Trying to connect abstract ideas in concrete images for students, and that oftentimes means getting the body involved, or that means we're going to sing in a different formation for 2 classes, or we're going to take some time and give some appreciation for a section for being on fire. Sounded awesome.
Give them their little moment in the sun.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's energetic, it's fun, it's active, a little chaotic at times, a little chit-chatty at times, but choir time is social time, right? So it's all about that communal opportunity to come together and just sing and piece a product together that's going to be awesome.
Yeah, it really is a pleasure to be in this room when you're making your music. It's one of my favorite places to be. Before we wrap up, you're a great teacher. You really are, Jonah. And our students are so lucky to have you. When you think about your experience and what makes you so good at your job, let's say that there was somebody coming in that was brand new to the profession, and they said, Jonah, what's the secret? What does it take to be a great teacher that has a significant impact on the lives of young people? What advice would you give to them? It's a tough question.
That is a tough question. For me, teaching is a balance. Not only do you have to know your stuff and act like you know your stuff, because sometimes people don't act like they know their stuff, and they should, right? But you have to be able to take a step back from that and say, okay, I'm in front of 14 through 18-year-olds. I know my stuff and I can talk nerdy all I want, but if I can't have a connection or a relationship with a student, I'm not going to be able to get anything out of them.
Right.
So for me, it's all about connecting with students and using music as a way to facilitate that, but also bringing some nerdy, great music that I love that might be a little above them at first, but finding ways to bring it back to, oh, I can connect with this. Oh, I can relate to this because I felt this emotion before, or oh, this reminds me of this one song that I heard on the radio, or oh, my favorite artist is this and it sounds like this.
Yeah.
It's all about making those connections and those positive connections for me.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're so good at it, and we're so thankful that you're on our team. I want to just thank you so much for being a part of this.
Yeah.
It's been a pleasure just sitting down and talking with you a little bit.
It was fun being here.
And thank you to all of you for watching Falcon Spotlight. We sure appreciate you giving us the time. Until next time, we are Faribault.